Hi, guys and ladies, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Being an Analyst. This is episode number 26 of Being an Analyst. This is the podcast where we take ordinary people, we give them privileged information about being an analyst. We talk about the tool sets, the skill sets, and the mindset that helps you transform with inspiration from being, doesn't matter whether you're a novice or you're a seasoned analyst, all the way to becoming an excellent expert analyst. Well, the term excellent expert analyst, it all depends on you. On our side, what we have to do is you are sure that every episode or every video, every podcast or every newsletter that comes from us, with it will come out with one thing in common, which is the way finding out ways to inspire you to become the best analyst that is possible. Today we are discussing mastering data analysis, and we are asking the best question that says, is all organizational data useful? If you master the data analysis, you find the power behind critical data, because we're asking this question: is all organizational data useful? If it's not, if it is, we don't know. Let's stay tuned for the rest of the video. Thank you once again for coming over and listening to every episode that we have produced. This episode is going to be also split into three segments. The first one, we're going to be talking about critical data, asking, is all organizational data useful? We're going to go into the quiz, which is where we have the multiple choice and fun stuff that are coming through, and we're going to end with the last segment, which talks about practical tips for us that are doing data analysis. I know not all analysts are data analysts, but all of us, somehow we have to work with data, whether it's qualitative or quantitative. Somehow we have to work with data, and that's how we're going to end the show. Let's start with the first segment, as we are going around to say, is all organizational data useful? Just because we are given data, should we be excited to start our analysis based on that data? Well, the effect is organizational data is abundant and diverse, but not all data hold equal value. Understanding the key concept of critical data is essential for effective analysis. This is why in this first segment we're going to be discussing critical data, just to understand what it is. So, critical data refers to information that is essential for achieving organizational goal. If it's not essential to achieve organizational goal, we cannot say it is critical data. All the time, I've been in a lot of meetings that we get asked a lot of questions, but nobody has ever actually come back to us to say, hang on a second, that question that we're just asking, that you want to put it in as a project, how is it helping us achieve organizational objectives? If we don't do that check all the time, and I think if you do it as an analyst, I mean, sometimes they look at you funny, but if you're an analyst leader or you're a team leader or you're a head of analyst department, this becomes your role to be asking all the time to say, hang on a second, we have a strategy plan, we have a 3-year strategy plan, we have a 5-year strategy plan. If you are that good or you're working in public sector, um, how is this that we are worried about? How does it fit into the big picture? But by the time that it gets to just a novice analyst or one of those seasoned analysts that are just technical, that opportunity is already gone. But if you are getting this and you're saying, hang on a second, the information that we're getting here, is it essential? for us to get to our organizational objective. That's the first check. This whole thing is dependent on the problem statement or the question that is being asked. So if you are asking a question about customers, information that, I mean, there might be nice information that you get about products and about where the economy is going, all of that might be nice, but just try to find out, is it, how does it relate to customers issue that we are dealing with? If it doesn't relate to that, all you can do is then you can remove irrelevant data out of your analysis so that you can only focus on what is important. What are the characteristics of that look like? So we're going to be looking at a few things. First one is timelines. Data should be up to date to be actionable. If we are talking about critical data, the one that you should be looking at, that you're prioritizing to say, this is going to be critical data. One of its characteristics is it should be up to date to be actionable. So the timeliness should, it's the one of the first things that you should be looking at. If we having critical, what looks like critical data but is not up to date, or it takes, a couple of months to be updated, then maybe for that question, for this project that we have in front of us, we might have to discount it to say no, we're not going to use that. Timeliness is the first and important characteristics that we have to look at. Second characteristic that we're looking at is relevance. So we're looking at data must be directly attributable to organizational goal. In fact, in this case, to that research question or that problem that you're asking about. So if you're coming through from marketing and you go into the data team and you're like, I want to understand, how do I, spend the marketing spend properly? Help me using this data that I have about, maybe billboards. And it turns out that that data doesn't show which of those billboards is occupied, which of those billboards is um, it's got a billboard on, or which of those has been taken down. You don't have all of that. So we can start to say, yes, it looks like it's good information for marketing, but it might not be relevant to the question that we're asking, to say how best do I spend the marketing spend. If we don't know if that billboard is been occupied, I mean, we cannot say buy time in this billboard, buy time in that billboard, buy time in this one based on eyeballs. It's actually, you'll be wasting time with your analysis if you're gonna be looking at stuff that's incomplete. The third one that also links to that one, it has to do with accuracy. Reliable data ensures information decision making. If it's accurate, you are able to say, hang on a second, we only have three billboards to choose from. Which of these three should we be looking at? Even though the high impact ones are there, maybe the high impact ones are not available in that particular month that you're looking to actually flight our advert or our commercial. So that's the third one. It has to do with accuracy. The fourth characteristics that we're looking at has to do with context. So understanding the context in which data is collected enhances its usefulness. So if we're going to come around and say we have data about students that we can advertise to, but we don't understand how is this data collected. Yes, we can see it's data about students, but if we don't understand the collection process, it becomes difficult for us to start talking about, analysis and giving advices to that. So all of this could happen with any type of data. It could be about customer feedback trends, could be about sales figures, could be about marketing focus, like I just said. It could be any type of data that is impacted in terms of being sifted to say this, unfortunately, is not critical data. And it might sting a little bit that you've been told that this is not critical data. You might go like, oh, but that's critical data. Okay, let's look at understanding data before asking question, which is the good methodology or good practice or principle that we should be following. Instead of just asking the question and then we go find the data. When you are doing your when I was doing my dissertation or my thesis for my masters, we were always being taught something different. We were taught, go find data. Once you find the data, understand, clean up the data. After you clean up the data and after it's beautiful, then ask the question. All of us, we're so, distracted with that, because the first thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to find the problem and then go find the data. And then what we were being told all the time, that no, that's on a higher level, that's on a PhD level. You find the problem and then you go find the data, or you create the data itself. But on a master's and below, you find the data first and then you ask the question. So this is the principle that we should be looking at. So effective analysis begins with comprehending the available data. The importance of this principle is it avoids misinterpretation, because asking questions without understanding can lead to inaccurate conclusions. And the other thing that it does is it maximizes insightfulness, so that it can be, much more relevant, because it maximizes insights by familiarity with data enables analysts to pose targeted, meaningful questions. If we don't have the insights, we don't have clarity, we're going to be misrepresenting, and we're going to be minimizing our insights. So in that way, it's much better for us to actually understand the data before we go through. How do we do this? So following the following steps could actually help you to apply this above principle. The first thing is you explore the data, meaning that you review your data sets thoroughly. Second thing that you must do is you identify patterns and anomalies. So if you have some patterns that says this is a yearly, you can see that every year in July there's already a dip, and in October there's this peak that's happening there. You would understand those anomalies and recognizes trends and inconsistencies. You can be able to understand, to say, oh, what's happening here, before you even start asking the question. This is just familiarizing yourself with data. And formulate questions, which is the third one. Formulate questions based on observed patterns and organizational objectives. So you just don't go around asking the question. In order for you to ask the question, you explore the data first, to say, where's the data coming from? What does the data look like? Second thing that you're looking at, you identify patterns and anomalies. So your bar chart and your line graphs becomes quite important. And that is the reason why every time I went to an exco session with data, or they come to my side to ask for data, they would always wanted a trend analysis data, meaning that data that goes by time, by month, or by year, or by whatever, so that they can, first thing, they find the data from you as an analyst. They say, oh, December, can you come over to my office? Can you sit down here? Can you show me the data about sales? You take out the data about sales. Then they say, oh, can you give it to me by year, by month? Can you give me the last 3 years? And then you do that. They say, run the line graph. And then from there, then they give me what to do. I always found it odd. But now, seeing that happen over time, then I realized, oh, this is actually the best practice that we should be sharing as analysts. Explore the data, identify the patterns and anomalies within the data itself. If you have anomalies, I already spoke about it, to say you can already explain, to say this is because of COVID, this is because of launching the campaign, this is because the marketing spend was cut, whatever anomalies that's happening within the data. Then, only then, can we come with our question. So let's move over to the second segment of our podcast, which is the most exciting one. We only got 5 multiple choice questions that will, get things happening and exciting for us. Yeah. So first thing, let's just give some context. Critical data refers to information that is essential for achieving organizational objective. It's important for us to understand the problem statement or questions being asked to identify and focus on relevant data. So the first question is, what is critical data? Ah, nice one. Choose from one of the following. Question is, what is critical data? Is it A, data that is abundant and diverse? B, information essential for achieving organizational objectives? Or C, data that holds equal value across all departments? Or D, data collected
without context or relevance? A. Data that is abundant and diverse. B. Information essential for achieving organizational objectives. C. Data that holds equal value across all departments. D. Data collected without context or relevance. The answer to that is on the context that I just gave you. Okay. Why? Because, yeah, that's just how we're going to do it. So just rewind a little bit to get your answer. Let's go to the second question. Let's elaborate first. Understanding data before asking question helps avoid misinterpretation and ensures that analysis can pose targeted, meaningful questions based on observed patterns and organizational objectives. Now, here's the question. Why is understanding data before asking questions crucial? Why is understanding data before asking question crucial? You can choose from any of the following. Number one, it makes analysis more complicated. Number two, it helps avoid misinterpretation and maximizes insights. Number C, it delays the analysis process. Number D, it increases the likelihood of inaccurate conclusions. Wow. The answer is in the context that I just gave you earlier. Let's move on to the third question. Let's elaborate a little bit. Analysts should prioritize critical data aligned with organizational goals to focus their analysis effort effectively. Here's the question. What should analysts prioritize during data analysis? What should analysts prioritize during data analysis? Is it one, irrelevant data? Two, critical data aligned with organizational goals? Three, C, data that is outdated? And D or four, data that is not accurate? Well, the answer is in the context that I just gave you. Let's go to the fourth one. Okay, the fourth one says assumptions can be validated by verifying hypotheses with evidence from the data, ensuring that analysis conclusions are based on factual evidence. Assumptions can be validated by verifying hypothesis. Hypothesis is where you make an assumption to say, I hypothesize that this podcast is gonna break the internet. And then hypothesis is not just making assumption; it's make assumption based on some known facts. So you can be quite closer, and then you need data to actually verify your hypothesis. So let's go to the question. How can assumptions be validated during data analysis? A, by ignoring them. B, by verifying hypothesis with evidence from the data. C, by assuming they are correct. D, by collaborating with colleagues. Okay, let's go to the last question. I know you got them all. And besides that, we're just having fun and we're getting context as we're learning in these questions. Let's get the fifth one. Continuous learning is important for analysts. Continuous learning is important for analysts to stay updated with evolving data analysis techniques, enabling them to improve their skills and adapt to changing analytical needs. Why is the question number 5 says, why is continuous learning important for analysts? Is it one, A, it is unnecessary for effective analysis? B, it helps analysts stay updated with evolving data analysis techniques. C, it slows down the analysis process. D, it is only relevant for senior analysts. Okay, that was a fun time. Well, I'm having fun asking this question. I don't know how you're getting it. Let's jump to the last segment as we conclude our episode. The last segment, we're looking at what are the practical tips for data analysis, knowing about this critical data. So here's the practical analysis steps that we could follow. The first one is it helps us to prioritize critical data, especially the focus on data sets aligned with organizational goals. If you have access to those data sets, I mean, it's quite important for you to go in and identify them to say these data sets actually are quite important, because whatever we just aligned to or whatever we just agreed to in our 3-year plan, we will need these data sets to actually get the ball going. So it prioritizes critical data. The second thing is it validates assumptions, especially those hypotheses that everybody else is making. We verify hypotheses with evidence from the data itself. That's what analysis job's supposed to do. I thought that analysts were supposed to just to, get data and then do crabs. But in that way, if you do that, I mean, they were shook when I was doing my thesis. And I was doing that. They was like, no, 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 what is your hypothesis? I'm like, what do you mean? It says you must start with hypothesis before you see the results. So the first thing is to say our customers are leaving us because our prices are too high. That's a hypothesis. And then you run the data, then you come back to say, oh, our customers are not leaving us because the prices is high. But the problem is doing it that way, it doesn't give you the answer. You still have to create so many hypotheses. But if you're doing it quite nicely, you'll be able to validate all the assumptions that you are running with your data. Okay, number three, it helps with collaboration. So it engages with colleagues to gain diverse perspective, especially colleagues that are not within the data space. I know right now there's this whole thing of all analysts, MIS or BIS, that have been moved from their respective department. They've been put together in one area so that they can have the same data methodology, the same discipline of slicing data. But that takes away, because you will focus more on the discipline of cleaning and manipulating data, but it takes away that knowledge that you were going to have if you were sitting in marketing, or you were sitting in finance, or you were sitting in sales. That knowledge that you know to say, we just ran the marketing campaign, I should see that dip in the numbers. That will be missing from your analysis. All you would know is, the database was down between 7 and 8, because that's what will be discussed in your stand-ups on a daily basis. So it's a give and take. Number four is continuous learning that we should be doing. I'm a big advocate for that. Stay informed with evolving data analysis techniques, and that you will get from your data teams if you are guys are being put together. So let's just go through the three key takeaways that you should remember. Critical data is essential. Understanding the concept of critical data is essential for effective analysis. Not all data holds equal value. The analyst um, must focus on information that directly contributes to organizational objectives. Second key takeaway is understanding data before asking question is quite important. Effective analysis begins with comprehending the available data. This principle helps avoid misinterpretation and maximizes insights, enabling us to pose targeted, meaningful questions based on observed patterns and organizational goals. And the last key takeaway is practical tips for data analysis. Has to do with prioritizing critical data, validating assumption, collaboration with colleagues, and continuous learning are essential practices for successful data analysis. These tips ensures that we focus on relevant information, verify hypotheses with evidence, and gain diverse perspective, and stay updated with evolving um, analytical techniques. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you found it insightful, if you're on Spotify, there's a poll right there. Please run the poll. If you're not on Spotify, it's okay. Maybe you can consider listening from Spotify. If you're on Spotify, there's a poll right there. Please run the poll. Let me know, how did you find the podcast? Is it nice? Engaging? Is it successful in your learning journey? Are you getting
inspired to excellence? I think that's the only question that I should be asking. Are you getting inspired? You find this thing important, so that I know that what our organization is doing and being an analyst, it's actually working. Let's chat again in episode number 27. Stay blessed.